Hello. Today I am finishing a bracelet that I started on last night. The design consists of vintage pearls with a loop. They're plastic pearls that I have applied Swarovski crystals in a spiraling shape. Size 20 crystal. And I believe this is Aquamarine, size 20, I'm not sure. I didn't have the package, I just had it in a bag. Today I wanted to show my methods of applying the Swarovski crystal. It can be tricky to do it without creating a big mess. So before we get started, I'm just finishing putting a clasp on here, and I use these pliers, concave on one side and round on the other. They're great for opening loops. They're intended for creating loops, but I use them to open the loops. And put my clasp on there. I wanted to put a couple of loops on the other side, but can get started with gluing here. I'm making a matching pair of earrings. I have the loop halfway decorated. So first of all, we use E6000. It's probably one of the best glues for gluing rhinestones on the jewelry. Pretty hard to take off once it's glued on. So first of all, one of the tricks to not making a mess, and this is just one way, everybody can have their own way, but this might be a good way to start. Just slide a little bit of glue onto a card or a paper or a piece of plastic or whatever you'd like, and we use these vintage Japanese pins, but any kind of pin or an awl would work. You just get a little dab of glue on the end of your pin. You can spin it and have your rhinestones facing down. You just put a little dab of glue on, and you place your rhinestone with the pin, and you could slide it into place wherever you'd like. And I'm alternating between crystal and aqua. And you want to make sure your glue is soft. Once it starts to stiffen, it's harder to work with, and it may not dry as solidly and hold your item in place. You get a little dab on there. You use the dab of glue to pick up your rhinestone, and I like to spin the pin around on the back of the rhinestone a little bit to kind of get the glue attached to the rhinestone more than the pin, so you can slide it off easily. And if you put too much glue on the end of your pin, you're going to have glue spilling out the sides of the rhinestone once you've applied it to your object. This is a great method to add a different look to your jewelry designs, so that everything doesn't look the same all the time. People may just buy beads that are already decorated, but you can add a unique and individual look by decorating them yourself. So I did my top layer. My glue's starting to be a little harder to work with. I don't know if you could see that there. So it's a little bit wasteful, but once it gets doesn't roll on your pin as easy, it sticks to itself and doesn't separate. I just put another smear of glue And if you work slow, you don't have to put that much glue on at all, just a little dab. And then continue with your work. And some people would probably prefer to mark where they're going to place their rhinestones, but I usually do it by eye. Sometimes it's a little uneven, but that's okay. This is typically better to do with a plastic bead of any shape, because plastic is lighter weight, and if you're making earrings. And the crystals, if you put a lot on, can get pretty heavy pretty quick. And Swarovski crystal is by far the best in the industry. It can be the most expensive too, but it adds such a life to your work. Perhaps a bit too much for some people, but I also sometimes like to use vintage stones for a different look. Once you decide what design you want to put, it goes a lot quicker, but the first piece is always the longest, trying to find the spacing, and you could still slide it around as it's drying. Sometimes you accidentally move one out of place and you have to put it back in. And thank you for watching. We have this particular item I'm embellishing available on our eBay store. It was made in Korea. We also have some larger sizes. Some were made in Japan as well, and it looked great in many different colors. Making this piece specifically for someone who likes aqua. They're very sparkly pieces. The camera probably won't catch the light, but if you've never used Swarovski crystal, it's alive and it adds beauty to your work for sure. You have to be careful if you're using vintage rhinestones. You want to test to make sure the foil doesn't separate. I've had pieces that I put a lot of time into, and once it gets worn, the crystal will fall off and it can't be used until it's repaired. So sometimes you can use extra glue on vintage rhinestones. It may look a little messier, but if you get the glue to come out around the edges when you're gluing, you can hold the edges down more so that the foil separates. The edges are still held in place. guess you could say this is work for people that have patience, but just a little practice, you get the swing of it pretty quickly. It's nice to do this kind of work if you just want to relax for a while. Maybe listen to music or something. The E6000 is a strong smell. It has a strong smell to it, so it's good to use ventilation. Right now we have our workshop open and fresh air is flowing through the front door, but in the winter it can be a little stronger makes you a little lightheaded sometimes if you overdo it, so you want to make sure you take a break now and then, or try not to lean too far over the glue while you're working. I have used the more environmentally friendly glues, and the pieces, they just fall apart. Even the ones that claim that they're as strong as a industrial strength cements like E6000, they fall apart very soon after it being worn or used. I'm almost finished with this one. That's a lot of glue for that piece, but you get the hang of it. Oops, wrong color. I'll finish this one with this color. Sometimes it's nice to mix colors. Even doing 3 and 4 colors at once can add a nice look. And just make sure you have enough room. You can slide things around even as it's been sitting for a few minutes. I made it a little tight on the bottom here, but it's not a big deal. Might just fit in there. The bottom won't be seen very much anyways, so this spacing is not perfectly even, but I think that's what makes art special, is to have, I don't know, an individual look on every piece. So that's going to be one earring. I'll go ahead and finish that off. See these pliers here? They're great to grip your loops, to open them. They're great for making loops on head pins, and just open it up there, and when I want to loop my piece on there, I can close it with another plier. Got it looped on there. The plier with ridges or texture on the inside is better for gripping this kind of smooth metal. And there we have a matching earring. Thanks for watching. I'll try to make more videos with design ideas in the future. And you can visit our website at thepinkcaravan.com. We don't have any items available there, but sometimes we may offer specials, and you can browse our eBay store, stores.ebay.com/thepinkcaravan. We offer vintage craft supplies and also trimmings and sewing supplies. try to add new items on a regular basis, so make sure to keep checking. Just finishing this one up. I'm sure by now you have the idea down. Best to do a whole piece at once in case you do get your spacing off a little bit. Like that last one, that first piece I was working on, the bottom just barely fit in there. I had to move the bottom row up. So it helps to be able to adjust your stones, the placement. There's a little too much glue on that one. Every now and then when your pin gets bunched up, you just pinch it off. And this glue, when it gets on your fingers, it usually will roll off. You have to peel it off. For those of you that are new to E6000. There's a little string, you can just pull that right off. Sometimes your stones will stick together and you have to separate them. At first you might get your stones a little bit of glue on the front, and that can make your stone lose its sparkle, and it can be difficult to remove. You want to make sure you don't have wet glue on the end of your finger if you're going to use your finger to push the stone down solidly. That's one of the keys to having the stone stay in place. Okay, just move this one out of place. Make sure you press firmly, but you want to make sure you don't move other stones out of place as you're pressing. And this stone is the wrong color. So move that one. It takes practice to keep it clean. First few pieces I've ever done had strings of glue all over them, and you have to try and peel them off once they've dried, but sometimes you just can't, and you have to deal with it or replace the stones that are messy looking. But that's why I'm showing you guys this method, because with the pin being able to roll the glue off, you prevent getting your stones overly messy. Which one is the fresh glue? Not sure. Right down here. This is great for vintage lucite pendants. Sometimes the facets are just the right size or shape to embellish pave style crystals. And it's nice to get the colorful plastic, and you can get a colorful stone to put on. Adds a nice little look to your work. So this piece is finished, and once again I'm using my handy pliers. These are hard to find, but there's also this style. I don't like this one as much. I like this one has a little more of a slender edge. And okay, and there is a pair of earrings. Something like this in a retail gift store would probably sell easily for $20 to $30, maybe $50 depending on the store. These of course aren't perfect, but just add an extension hook, a couple of them on the end here so that different sizes can be worn in the bracelet. You can measure your extensions, usually an inch or so at a time. I just do it by eye.